Back in summer of 2020, I posed this camera right here, the Sony ZV-1, as the ultimate webcam alternative. And it turns out it just got even better. I'm EposVox, the stream professor, and this is the Sony ZV-1. This is Sony's $600 to $800 1-inch sensor camera that released last year and promised to deliver USB streaming output to be used as a webcam, but as an upgrade compared to how other cameras do. If you missed the whole spiel, I'll have a playlist linked in the description below. Pretty much every camera manufacturer released a program last year, despite the fact that we've been calling for it for years, to allow you to use your mirrorless or DSLR camera as a webcam over USB, to mostly poor results, because all of these were using the tethering preview to take photos with when connected to a laptop, for example. So it usually runs at 1024 by 576 at 30 FPS. Super choppy, not great. Well, the Sony ZV-1 was being marketed as a camera that has an upgraded mode for that actually provides HD video in a pleasing image. I was super stoked and reached out to Sony to review it last year, and they sent me one when the app wasn't available yet. So I reviewed it as a camera that you can hook up to a capture card and the like, but didn't get to test the software. Then we tried testing the software over Streamer News and it wasn't great. They have updated the Sony Imaging Edge webcam app software and the firmware for the Sony ZV-1 to provide an upgraded HD output for this camera over USB. And that is what I'm using right now. I have a Sony ZV-1 in hand. We have a Sony ZV-1 mounted above my monitor here, and we are using it over USB. It outputs 720p, so 1280 by 720 at 30 FPS. You get no 60 FPS and you don't get any higher than that. And it's outputting an MJPEG stream. So that is the feed you get here. It's still not perfectly fluid, but it is significantly upgraded compared to what we saw last year. And this is wonderful. Super shoutouts to a viewer by the name of Chandler, who actually sent out a pair of these Sony ZV-1s for me to test all this software upgrade again, because these things are awesome. Now, I'm not gonna be too redundant with my full review of the camera. If you missed that, go check the link in the description below. But if you missed it, the Sony ZV-1 is a wonderful camera because it's a small sensor camera. It's a point and shoot, which you think are dead these days, but this one provides high quality 4K video. It provides some really cool features such as really fast autofocus if you'd like, and a product showcase mode where when you hold up a product to the camera, it can immediately, well, not immediately sometimes, but very quickly show it and then still go back to your face or back where you had the autofocus set to, which makes it great for product shots, for videos, for streaming where you want to show stuff off and you want, fast, snappy, responsive autofocus, as I say, as I mess it up. I haven't actually tuned any of the settings here since I am borrowing someone else's camera. I wanted to leave most of the settings alone to keep in mind, but you can tune it quite a bit. It does 4K or 1080p internal. It can be fully powered over USB, so I have all of this connected through one cable for data and video and power, which is pretty awesome. And of course, it has both clean HDMI out and USB video out, as we're using now. There are still some limitations with this USB webcam mode, of course. It is great if you just have one of these cameras and you need to use it as a webcam for teaching, for video conferencing, for streaming if you want, for just calling a friend. You want something like this. It's great for that, and it's a free upgrade, so no reason not to use it if you have it. But there are still some limitations in that you can see, as I mentioned before, the motion can be quite choppy. It's not super great. You don't have access to all of your menu settings. So if you want to set up face registration for the autofocus, like I do not have set up right now, you can't actually access the menu while you are in this mode. You can still change the shutter speed, the ISO, and the aperture, but you can't change most of the other settings or it will disconnect it from USB. Of course, you can just set that setting and then reconnect it and reactivate it, and that's fine. But I also could not get it to work with multiple cameras. So I have two of these ZV-1s here, plugging both of them in over USB. I'm not given a second device. I'm not given another option to connect it in any way. It is just the one. I don't know if they have it enabled for multicam at all, but I did not see any way to do that, which is disappointing because using two of these side by side, or one of them overhead for a unboxing kind of camera, or for like my Pokemon card openings or things like that, would be really powerful, because this is actually the kind of use case I've been looking into the ZV-1 for, because I have multiple overhead mounted cameras that I have struggled with keeping in focus, and this one would not struggle with that focus at all. To get your camera updated for either just outputting video over USB in the first place or the updated one, head to the link in the description below. On Sony's website, they have a firmware upgrader tool for Windows and Mac. Connect your camera to USB, run the firmware updater, it will restart it, and then you need to, once it's restarted and the firmware update says everything is done and safe, of course, you need to actually unplug it, because then you need to go to the menu settings. Firstly, go to movie mode, of course, but then go to the second of the camera settings menus, and on the third or fourth page-ish, there is a USB streaming option, and you'll need to click that, which will enable the USB streaming mode, and then you can connect your micro USB cable. Now, something I've noticed this time around that I'm not certain is unique to the new firmware, or if I was doing it wrong previously, but you don't actually add, when you're adding either a video capture device to your streaming software, such as OBS or XSplit or what have you, or selecting a device in your video calling app. Previously, I was selecting a Sony Imaging Edge device that it installs, and I assumed that it would load up the preview at some point. And this is how the Canon and the Fuji and all of that works. With the Sony ZV-1 with the latest firmware, it actually shows up as a device called ZV-1. So you just add that device instead, and you get what we have right here. In terms of quality, what should you go with? Should you go with USB mode, or should you invest in a capture card? The results might surprise you here. So you have been looking at, for most of this video, the camera connected over USB. But now we're gonna switch, and I'm gonna show you side by side the USB versus a 4K capture card, which obviously the 4K capture card taking in 4K video from the ZV-1 is going to look stellar and gonna be significantly nicer looking and a little bit more smooth. But you may be saying, okay, so what? Well, I don't have a fancy 4K capture card. Well, now you're gonna look at it side by side with this right here, if I can get it unplugged. This is one of those cant links, or a $6 USB capture card. It only does 1080p, but you can connect the ZV-1 to it at 4K, plugging in HDMI on one end, USB Type-C to Type-A or to Type-C on the other end to your computer, and you get 1080p video. And this is what that looks like compared to the USB and to the 4K. Now, as a final point of comparison, let's look at it compared to what I would consider the best webcam available on the market, which is the $200 Elgato Facecam. And you can see what that looks like side by side. An advantage you have with the Sony ZV-1 when streaming over USB compared to other camera as webcam applications is you get to send audio through the microphone in jack over USB as well. So this is the Deity VMic D4 Duo run into the Sony ZV-1 sent over USB. Not bad. So if you're trying to determine a path for yourself, obviously plugging in USB to your ZV-1 is the free way to go that will get you high quality webcam results very, very quickly and beats out any USB webcam available on the market, period. However, it's still soft, even at the 720p upgrade. It's still soft, it's still not wonderful, and the frame rate, especially depending on which USB port you plug it into, even though it only outputs USB 2.0, the frame rate's still not gonna be super stable. So I would say, while that's great to start with, I would still recommend investing $5 to $20 in one of these cheapo USB capture cards, because even though they're not gonna be reliable long-term, they're not great pieces of hardware, they're just cloned Chinese products. It's still the highest leap in quality you can get over the native, USB output of this capture card. Going from the cheapo capture card to the 4K capture card, you can definitely see a difference, but if you're just doing video conferencing or live streaming where you're not doing 4K output, the difference is not as noticeable compared to the difference between this and the USB output of this. So I definitely recommend getting you a cheap capture card to pair with this, and then getting a micro HDMI cable to run from your ZV-1. Then you do have to juggle a couple extra cables, because you have to plug in USB for power for the ZV-1 and HDMI to the capture card, which then runs in USB to your computer. It's a little bit more cabling, so maybe if you're on the go or running off a laptop, not the best idea. But if you're at a static kind of stationary setup for a normal workflow, getting one of these cheapo capture cards probably is the way to go. Some of you have said that you don't like that I'm spacing out these episodes weekly and you want to see them sooner. Your chance of seeing these videos soonest are on my own video site that I built with my creator friends. My videos are higher quality there, ad-free, and often extended from the YouTube versions. The site is called Nebula, and we've partnered with CuriosityStream. Nebula features YouTube's top education creators such as MKBHD, Thomas Frank, and Low Spec Gamer. CuriosityStream saw what we were doing for educational content and wanted to partner up and form an educational power team. We've worked out a deal where if you sign up with the link in the video description, you not only get access to CuriosityStream and their library of thousands of educational content and documentaries, you get access to Nebula as well for free for the entire duration of your subscription to CuriosityStream, which is pretty awesome. For a limited time, CuriosityStream is offering 20 26% off their annual plan, making it less than $15 a year for both CuriosityStream and Nebula together. While you're there, check out Viking Women to learn about Europe's forgotten Vikings. Head to curiositystream.com/epos for the best deal in streaming and get access to both sites for under $15 per year. It's crazy, just do it. So Sony's doing good stuff here, trying to release a higher quality video mode, and I would really hope that the next generation of cameras from all manufacturers, now that they finally see that this should be a priority, will build in a higher quality and USB 3.0 or higher optimized version of this instead of just using the photo tethering preview. But we'll see. I'm super stoked that they were improving it though, that they still pushed through and released a higher quality version of this, and I still think the ZV1 is the best possible webcam alternative that you can buy. Unfortunately, it's still $500 to $800 depending on where you buy it and how much you're willing to pay, which is unfortunate because I'm really like, I want a few of these for my studio. But if you are looking to spend that money, in terms of the overall workflow, even if the quality is a little less, this beats out the A5100s, the A6400s in a lot of cases, and the Panasonic G7 and G85 that I've previously recommended, just because of that autofocus system and the ability to power over USB and all of that. Whereas you have to buy the $500 to $800 body plus expensive glass and all that in order to get, and a dummy battery and all of that to get some of those other cameras running as webcams. Whereas this is kind of the complete package all in one, on top of the fact that the autofocus results, especially with the product showcase, beats out most of the other cameras I've recommended so far. So just wanted to provide an update here and a brief tutorial on how to set it up and upgrade it for yourself. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button if you did. Subscribe for more tech education and stream guides. Remember, be kind, rewind.